The federal government has formally handed over the 130 rescued students and teachers of the St. Mary's Catholic School, Papiri, to the Niger State Government. The handover ceremony took place at the Government House in Minna following a successful rescue operation coordinated by the Office of the National Security Advisor. Representing the National Security Advisor, the National Coordinator of the National Counterterrorism Center, General Adamu Laka, presented the victims to the State Governor Umar Bago. General Laka disclosed that the rescue was a direct directive from President Bola Tinubu, executed through a joint operation by the DSS, the Army, and other security agencies without suffering any casualties. He emphasized that the government is deploying immediate protective measures in high-risk areas to ensure education does not become a casualty of violence. Receiving the returnees, Governor Bago described the successful rescue of every single victim as unprecedented in Nigeria's history, expressing relief that they would be reunited with their parents just in time for the Christmas celebration.
It is important to narrate that the sustained efforts of the Department of State Services and the General Officer commanding 2 divisions, Nigerian Army, with the guidance of the Chief of Army Staff, have played a significant role in ensuring the success of this operation. I wish to, on this note, reaffirm the commitment of the Office of the National Security Advisor on the security of every Nigerian. We will continue to lead and coordinate measures to protect communities and institutions across the country. Particularly, we are implementing immediate short-term protective measures in high-risk areas while concurrently working with state governments, traditional and religious leaders to develop lasting community-based security solutions. For education, it must not be a casualty to violence. We will continue to pursue policies and operations to restore confidence, reopen schools safely, and ensure that the right of every Nigerian child to learn in safety is upheld.
If you look at these children and imagine the torments they went through, it's unbearable. For the last time they brought the first 100, I told you about the smallest. But looking at these children now, it's scary. We want to thank Mr. President, we want to thank the NSA, DGSSS, every other person that was part of this rescue. It's unprecedented. It's never happened like this in Nigeria, for you to get everybody back on heart. So we thank God. And this is also a unitide season. It's Christmas. We are hopeful that we reunite these people back with their families by the grace of God immediately.
And we're now being joined by our correspondent Sagir Ibrahim from Niger State. Hello, Sagir. Okay, so
you may have to repeat the question again. I didn't quite hear what you were saying.
I did not ask a question. I was just excited to know that you'll be joining us. I just called your name. Well, it's good to know you're safe.
Sadly, I still cannot hear the studio, Nyota. Perhaps we should give it another try.
Okay, all right. We'll come back to you, Sagir, if you can't hear us. We'll try that again in a bit, but let's just go on to...
Still difficult.
It's all right. We'll come back to you. Just hold on there. Our viewers will get to hear what you have to say and report on what's going on there. But let's move on real quick. We'll come back to Sagir. The federal government has outlined key economic indicators achieved in 2025, as well as efforts put in place to ensure that issues of kidnapping and other security threats are addressed. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, made this known speaking to journalists in the nation's capital during an end-of-year briefing ahead of the 2026 fiscal year. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, reports.
Thank you. You may please be seated. Thank you.
The briefing highlighted the gains of the current administration in the last 12 months, as well as set a blueprint for the months ahead.
What I heard is...
On security operations, the Minister of Information and National Orientation says that suspected terror leaders were arrested in 2025 and confirmed that all abducted students from St. Mary's Catholic School in Patigi, Niger State, have been rescued.
Now, this brings to total the entire
230 of these school children that have been abducted. Recall that the first batch of 100 of them have been reunited with their families. So in total, no one is left in captivity from the event that has happened at St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri in Niger State.
On the economic front, he says that Nigeria's gross domestic product grew by over 3% in the third quarter, while headline inflation declined, continuing a downward trend over the last several months.
Our gross domestic product, that's GDP, grew by 3.98% in the third quarter of 2025, demonstrating resilient and sustained expansion in the non-oil sector. Significantly, headline inflation has now declined for 8 consecutive months to stand at 14.45% in November 2025.
In education and youth development, he says that the Nigerian Education Loan Fund disbursed loans and stipends, and that hundreds of thousands of citizens benefited from targeted digital skills and student entrepreneurship training.
For our young people, 2025 has been a bumper year in targeted and catalytic policy-making implementation plan. The first one is Nigeria Education Loan Fund, the popular NEL Fund, which has now supported over 788,000 Nigerian students.
While noting the introduction of a revised national counter-terrorism framework, he adds that external reserves stood at over $44 billion and re-echoed Nigeria's removal from the Financial Action Task Force grey list during the year. In Abuja for News Central, Idong Joseph.
I'm now being joined by Mr. Ahmed Sajo, a former Commissioner for Information in Adamawa State, to look at the overview of the information put out there. Mr. Sajo, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
I saw you in that. I saw you, you were at the briefing.
Yeah.
Overall, how would you describe the information or the release from the government?
No, I think for me personally, I would always say that I'm very proud of the Minister of Information because you know, he usually gives out the facts. It's not about arguing rhetoric. It's not about trying to, you know, rail down some information down the throats of Nigerians, but giving out the facts. And these facts are very, very important for people to understand. Of course, we know there are gaps. I mean, you just recall that he started with the good news of the release of students from Niger, and still he found time to empathize with the families because releasing them is not enough, but that during the period of their captivity, it was a traumatic thing for both the kids and their families, their parents. And
but I do hope that there are plans to deal with the issue of trauma on the children, because months in captivity, those children are traumatized.
And that's exactly where the minister started from, that they empathize with them and that they understand that there are some levels of trauma. And this is the kind of communication we actually want government to begin to engage the public with. Understand that when the public goes through some traumatic experiences, empathize with them. It's not like you are in government and so you can tell people whatever you think you have to tell the people. And then immediately after that, if you notice, you just picked up with the economy, because the economy is the main thing. And whatever we're talking about, if there's no food on the table, you know, it's all Dogon Turanchi. And people are no longer interested in Dogon Turanchi. People are interested in what are the facts. GDP almost 4%, 3.98 is almost 4%.
Mr. Sajo, I'm sorry I have to come in here, because GDP almost 4%, right? But you see, does that translate to the cost of a loaf of bread for the man out there who's looking for how to buy a loaf of bread? The cost of, for instance, the price of a bag of flour has come down, granted. But the price of bread has not come down.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is even more disturbing. Inflation has been going down. 14.45 is a huge quantum, you know, within the period. And even the fuel prices that were the basis of raising a lot of our prices, fuel is coming down.
Yeah.
But people are not bringing down anything. I think beyond government, we need to begin to interrogate ourselves also as a people. What is wrong with the situation? Why is it that, when things are supposed to go down and be easier for ordinary citizens, they hardly do? Price of fuel has gone down.
The price of rice has come down.
Rice and everything, flour has gone down, sugar has gone down, but the price of bread is still up. What really is happening? But I think, standing with where the minister had spoken, every indices that he has mentioned is positive, is good for the country. But like Hausa people will tell you, that the dog says if there is a ceremony in their house, you should see bones all around the litters. The ordinary people want to see a much more drastic reduction in cost of living. And there are areas that I think government should start taking some intervention measures. Landlords increase rent anyhow without giving you any reason. Even when the price of cement is coming down, even if you are building the house today, transporters will just increase the cost of transportation because they know people want to travel. Yeah. Air tickets go up and everything. And these things are negating actually the efforts of government in trying to bring down, or at least controlling all the economic indices so that people can benefit. But by and large, on the part of government, as presented by the Minister of Education, things are okay. They are getting better. They're getting better by the day. And the minister is also always very measured in his use of language. He has never, spoken down on people or shouted on Nigerians as saying, look, you don't understand government. It's always, look, pacify people. That things are really getting hard. Look at in the security issue. Apart from the emergency that the president has declared, one of the information that the minister gave us that is of great value is the fact that from now onward, Nigeria has redesignated anybody who undertakes either insurgency, banditry, kidnap as a terrorist, so that they will be tried under the terrorism laws. And those laws are very strong on offenders. These are criminals. There is nothing we can't hide under. You call them bandits, you call them, if they can.
They're terrorists.
They're terrorists. Now, the four pillars upon which the Nigeria security architecture is built now, a central command. Yeah. Before there used to be rivalry between the different security agencies. So now there's a central crowd. There's synergy. No longer Air Force works in silos, Army in silos, this one is, no. SSS, they're all working together. The second pillar, he says, is intelligence gathering. Of course, that goes to say also intelligence sharing, processing and sharing. And then the third one, he said, community stabilization. Because in all internal security control measures, winning the hearts and the minds of the people is core. So you need community stabilization. Then the last one is counterinsurgency. Counterinsurgency is very, very important. But honestly, you do not achieve counterinsurgency unless you have unified command and control, you have intelligence gathering and sharing, and you have good community stabilization.
And that means you also have the goodwill or the buy-in of the people.
That's where the community stabilization comes in.
So when the people understand what they ought to do, it's easier for you to work with them. So that call by the president for a quick action towards state police, did he say anything about that?
He didn't say anything about it, but you could deduce from what he was talking about that this government is a listening government. A lot of people have been agitating for this community police, and a lot of people are saying they don't want the community police. But, excuse me. But you see, we are always mixing things. Police and policing are two different things. Policing has been taking place at the state level all along. All this, your LASMA, all this your Carota, all this Hisba, all this civilian jet, these are what they're doing is policing.
No, indeed.
They may not be called police, but what they're doing is policing. So we have endured state-level policing for quite some time.
Yes.
It's
time
almost
to give it a legal backing.
Exactly. And call it police. Because, look, let me tell you, why we need community police or state police in this country is that there are too many ungoverned spaces. And the Nigerian police is overstretched. And then the military out there is not in our interest. So get state police where you do not have federal police presence. Let the state police. They may not be for intervention, even if it is for early warning and early response. That is good.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmad Sajo is a former Commissioner for Information in Adamawa State. Thank you for coming to our studio today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, and I'm glad I came to the studio because I watch your channels a lot, but I've always been asking myself where exactly the studio. I've joined you once or twice on Zoom, but I've never been to the studio.
And it's good to have you in New Central's Abuja studio.
And you're in the Central.
And we're looking forward to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Let's move on now. We'll take a break, and when we return, FCCPC cautioned road transporters over arbitrary transport fare increases. We'll bring you details in a moment. Stay with us. We began the 6th edition today with a story about the return of 130 students and teachers, and that they were being handed over by the federal government to the Niger State government. And we tried to speak to our correspondent, Sagir, who is on ground, and he joins us now. Sagir, if you can hear us, just tell us, what was it like, when the handover took place?
Well, good evening, Yota. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, 130 students with an inclusion of teachers came right here. In fact, this is the photo op area where they are taking the photograph that has now since gone viral with the governor, among other officials in the state. The students, first of all, came in. They were obviously looking tired. Some of them clearly looking malnourished. One cannot even imagine what they have been through, experience, and what the situation has been like for them over the course of 30 days. But by and large, they came in. It was a brief ceremony, and of course, within 10 minutes, it was over. And of course, these children were quickly put in a vehicle where, after the governor announced that, of course, the children will then be reunited with their family. As far as family members are concerned, we didn't cite categorically. We did not cite any member of their families here. Perhaps the Niger State government has a mechanism through which these children are going to be united. The expectation was that it was going to happen here, but sadly we did not get the opportunity to see that. Neither did we get the opportunity to speak with any member of their families or any member of the St. Mary's Catholic Church who were here present. Back to you, Martin.
All right, thank you very much, Sagir. Well, let's just believe that in the course of life, maybe they want the children to go through a trauma treatment process before they're handed over to their family and back to the school authorities. Thank you once again. Please stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you back here in Abuja. All right. Let's go on to Kogi State, where the governor, Usman Ododo, has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to tackling insecurity across the state. Governor Dodo was meeting with local vigilante groups in Yagba land at the government house in Lokoja, and he assured that criminal elements will not be allowed to reign free in the state. He noted that despite Kogi's reputation as a major agricultural hub, insecurity has prevented farmers from accessing their lands and crops, thus the need to flush out suspected criminal elements. He was speaking on behalf of the vigilante groups. The coordinator of the Lands Cordial for Special Operations, Ashiru Oluwasegun, pledged the readiness of the local security outfit to work with the state government to confront insecurity.
Today is for us to reassure ourselves and the entire state, the entire community across Kogi State, that Kogi State belongs to all of us. We are very hardworking people. We are farmers. Look at them. We're all farmers because we believe in ourselves. And Kogi State is known for agriculture. We produce what we eat and eat what we produce. But with the influx of these criminals, some of our farmers could not access their farmlands. And if we continue to fold our arms, waiting for them to leave our land, they will not leave. So we have come to conclusion that we will still take that fight to them wherever they are. And I want to appreciate Mr. President for his support at all times.
Just as my boss has said, His Excellency, we are ready to take the battle to them. We cannot allow anybody to come and take our state from us. We cannot allow anybody to come from anywhere to just come and be killing our children. We can no longer go to our farms again. Even like the mineral department, because of that, nobody can go to the site again. We can no longer take this. So that is just it.
Now, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has cautioned interstate road transport operators against arbitrary and unexplained fare increases during the ongoing Yuletide travel period. The Commission's Corporate Affairs Director, Ondaje Ijagu, issued the warning in a statement following a surge in consumer complaints from several parts of the country. The FCCPC acknowledged that several demand, operational pressures, and other legitimate cost factors may affect transport pricing. However, it warned that consumers are entitled to clear, accurate, and timely information on fares before travel. Now, Nigeria's Yuletide fuel market has shifted from scarcity-driven price spikes to relative stability and gradual price moderation, mainly due to subsidy reforms and the emergence of large-scale domestic refining. All of these have their own effects on the cost of transportation, especially for those traveling for the holidays. Now, here's a breakdown of what it has been like. From the year 2019, for instance, private movement, there was a slight decrease at 145 naira per litre, generally stable but minimal scarcity as at 2019. Now, regulated pricing regime with partial subsidy, controlled imports, and government-led price modulation. There was a lot of conversation around that. What's going to happen? This is not the way to go. In 2020, there was a slight movement upwards. Announcement down, a reduction was announced, even though it had moved over. It was announced, a reduction was announced. And it remained uneven at 165 per litre, localized scarcity and price divergence. It goes to certain parts of the country, the prices were raging, and in some other parts it was at 160 or thereabout. Now, that happened to be the COVID-19 period. There were disruptions, weak enforcement of official price bans. Subsidy regime was still active at that time. In 2021, December again, the price movement, there was unofficial price hikes between 165 naira 77 kobo per litre. From then there was a range. Again, if you go to certain parts of the country, at that time the prices were between 180 in some parts of the country to 230 to 250. Widespread Yuletide scarcity, especially in the southern part of the country and in the far north of the country. The policy situation at that time, import dependence, logistics disruptions, foreign exchange pressure, and supply bottlenecks. In 2022, there was an upward price pressure between 206 and 209 naira per litre in Lagos and Abuja. In other parts of the country, there was really no control, so to speak. Persistent scarcity during the festive period, high subsidy burden, global oil price volatility, delayed import, and distribution inefficiencies. Now, in 2023, there was that announcement in 2023 of when the president spoke. At that point, there was a boom, sharp increase, 600 to 670 naira per litre. That was the range. It was available everywhere, improved, but fuel remained very expensive. Availability was improved, but very expensive. Now, the removal of fuel subsidy in May 2023 meant full market deregulation, but it coincided with the naira depreciation by the government, and that also affected the costing of fuel. Come down to 2024, that was when the initial output from the Dangote refinery, which meant domestic refining, had coming, and that was going to be having an effect on the pricing. But the moderate reduction at deposits, well, at depots was between 850 and 900 naira per litre, as at that 2024. Improved supply with limited scarcity. But then there was that hope that somewhere along the line things were going to change. There was going to be an effect on imports. Imports were going to reduce because there was some refining going on locally. Come down to 2025. The prices have dropped marginally. I mean, at the depots, the price is about 60 to 700. But then if you go to the fuel station, selling between 800 and 900. Scarcity-free Yuletide period. You walk into it, drive into any fuel station, you get fuel, expanded local refining capacity, improved supply chain efficiency, and competitive market dynamics. Guess what? You could go to some fuel stations. In fact, I think I saw on social media a fuel station that says buy up to 30 liters of fuel and get a packet or a carton of what they call now spaghetti. That's called competitive pricing, even if I say so myself. But I'm being joined in the studio by the Director of Corporate Affairs at the FCCPC, Mr. Ondaje Ijagu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's start with that, what we saw on social media. Buy 30 liters, get a carton of spaghetti. Did you see that coming?
In a deregulated economy, you could have that because it's an element of competition. It's promotional marketing. As you would see, people try to give some added value and incentives to consumers in different ways.
In order to draw them in.
Yes, in order to
let's
get
go
their
to
patronage.
Let's go to this warning that you put out there, the statement you put out there to transport interstate transport operators, not to do any arbitrary hike in fares. But what would make you think they would do that? Seeing that vehicle maintenance pricing seem not to have dropped, even though fuel pricing has somewhat come down a bit.
Yes, we are not saying that they are doing that, but we had some triggers. And what's that trigger? What are those triggers, rather? One of it is the fact that we had some heightened consumer complaints reaching us from different platforms, indicating that there had been an arbitrariness in that regard, that transport fares that were maybe like X Naira yesterday, week before, suddenly like triple X Naira today. And looking at those kind of things and also looking at the market dynamics, we can tell that even when you talk about fluctuation in the different elements, they don't happen as rapid as this has happened. So when we see those kind of situations, we will definitely have to sound the alarm warning to say, look, if it is that people are colluding, if it is that they are being exploitative, then they would have to take caution because we'll come after them. But we don't just get up and come. We would have to investigate and then come by our findings. It is our findings that would actually let us know whatever are those proportionate maybe penalties or corrective measures that we could put in place.
Okay, I was just trying to find out something here. Flight tickets, for instance.
Yes.
Flight tickets, I mean, people are spending as much as 500,000 naira for a one-way ticket to some parts of Nigeria. I mean, is that not insane? And then right now, to travel between Lagos and Abuja, or from Lagos to the east, or whichever way you want to go, could be spending as much as 100,000 naira.
Yes, we wouldn't as a
now some will say that this happens, these prices usually go up around this Yuletide period. But should that be the case?
As a regulator, we won't sit and say it's insane, but what we'll do is to actually interrogate why it is happening. And we have started that process. You know, before we issued the release on road transport, we had done one on the aviation sector. And we had also announced that we had started an expanded investigation in that sector as a result of what we are seeing in the market.
Yeah.
Because one of our mandate is to actually monitor economic activities and be able to either advise government or take necessary steps as could check some consumer detriments that are evident. And so we're doing this on our own, and we're also getting those regular triggers. So at the end of the day, we'll make our findings, definitely, and we'll be able to tell whether this was exploitative or whether it was just an issue of demand and supply. If it was an issue of demand and supply, or if it is, then definitely we may not have much to do there. But if for any reason we are able to tell that from our findings that certain collusion or some exploitative activities must have happened, definitely we will get into it.
Okay, so I ask again, so if, let's say, when you finish your investigation, you find out that the Nigerians are being exploited, say, to go from Abuja to maybe Lagos, they are spending as much as 500,000 naira. What would the agency be doing to? Would the agency be finding that would the agency be asking maybe the airlines to do a refund to Nigerians, or would they just be fine and that will be the end of it?
It depends on the gravity of what has happened there. If for any reason we're able to uncover certain things, a number of measures could be taken. First, I think, would be corrective measures to ensure that this does not happen again, because that would be our primary goal. Other ones would be to also let certain actors pay for their, if you like, in this sense, sins. If you are able to commit certain infractions, regardless of extant laws and regulations, then you would pay the penalty for it. So those kind of things could happen. And if there are also individual cases, because consumer issues are two sides of the coin. And like they say, it takes two to tango. For instance, we can't also sit at the commission and say a consumer has been injured by a certain operator. If we have complaints that we are able to investigate and uncover certain things, if you have in any way exploited a consumer, sure, we can ask for a refund.
Okay.
If it also warrants maybe compensation, we could also make certain orders that would also enable the consumer get justice.
Okay, just before I let you go, the last guest we had here was talking about the briefing by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, where he talked about the indices, the economic indices that are happening, and the fact that inflation is dropping. But he was wondering why the cost of living has not come down. Landlords are increasing rents arbitrarily, even though the cost of cement seems to be coming down. The cost of flour, a bag of flour, has come down. Sugar, the cost has come down. But the loaf of bread, the cost of a loaf of bread has refused to come down. And he's wondering what is going on. Is your commission looking into this as well?
That's an interesting angle. We have some departments in the commission that are on a daily basis looking at these issues. But let me also say that some of the things that happen in the marketplace, you can't just even entirely let the consumer go. If the consumer notices that he's being exploited, it is also his responsibility, one, to make his choice carefully. So that he doesn't go back to the person who is exploiting him. It is also his responsibility to enable the authorities to know that he's been exploited. So when we have those and also lifestyle is also part of what we're experiencing during this Yuletide season. Nothing says that we must all head to a particular place during this season.
All right, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Ondade Jagu is the Director of Corporate Affairs, FCCPC. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So grateful to
have you here.
Yes,
we look forward to having you again.
Yes, sure.
Well, let's go now to Morocco, where the Super Eagles coach Eric Shirley says Nigeria is focused on winning their opening Group C match against Tanzania at the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations on Tuesday. That's tomorrow. Speaking at the pre-match press conference in Fez, Shirley says the first game of any tournament is crucial and stressed the team's desire to start strongly. He added that his attention remains on the competition and his players, not discussions about his future. Charlie played down concerns over defensive absences, insisting he trusts the available squad and views defending as a collective task. Captain Wilfred Ndidi echoed the message, saying victory would set the right momentum for the tournament. Didi added that the squad is in high spirit and determined to meet the high standard set by reaching the last AFCON final. Nigeria will face Tanzania at the Complex Sportive d'Affaires tomorrow.
This is not a lack of respect. We prefer to stay focused. Every time I said be focused on my players and on our game project. This is the most important. So we have a training session today for that. We have, before the training session, we will have a video session for that. So the most important thing is to stay focused on us, because the first opponent is us.
And now we're being joined by our correspondent who is in Morocco, our sports correspondent Udoka Njoku. Hello, Udoka.
Hi, Nelta. Pretty cold here in Morocco.
I was just about to say, I hope you're not freezing there. Okay, so let's get to this. Considering the fact that the Super Eagles are not going to the 2026 World Cup, do you think there's pressure on the team to make a mark in Morocco?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Pretty cold here in Morocco. And yeah, talking about pressure, the players are trying so hard to downplay the fact that there is pressure on the team to be successful here in Morocco in the Africa Cup of Nations, which kicked off yesterday, with Morocco getting a victory over Comoros. Now, during the press conference, several questions about pressure was thrown at the coach, Eric Schell, and he kept on dodging, or rather deflecting the question, saying that there is no pressure on him, that he wants to focus, his only focus is on the AFCON. And then after the tournaments, they can now have conversations with his bosses to see if he continues with the job or not. Same thing applies to the coach, the new captain of the team, Wilfred Ndidi, who said that he is also not under any pressure being the new captain of the Super Eagles team. So yeah, we look forward to the game against Tanzania tomorrow, which is supposed to be a winnable game for Nigeria. But because of the exploits of Nigeria, the Super Eagles in 2025, where they did not get to qualify for the World Cup, it just feels like the fans are not trusting the team enough. But during the training session, which is currently ongoing, we had a few question and answer segments with the Super Eagles players, which some of them said they are ready for the game against Tanzania, and it is going to be nothing but all 3 points for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. So the players are saying no pressure, and the fans are also trying to believe the Super Eagles as much as they can.
All right, thank you so much, Udoka. Let me let you get back to that training, and do endeavor to stay warm. All right?
Thank you very much.
We'll get back to you. Well done. Come back to the FCT. Residents and commuters in parts of the Federal Capital Territory, notably the Karo satellite town, are concerned about the waste management situation. Overflowing refuse dumps, both official and unofficial, can be seen obstructing major roads, disrupting traffic flow, and increasing the risk of accidents, as well as raising fears of health problems. Our correspondent Aisha Salihu brings us more details.
This is what many commuters in the Karoo axis of the Federal Capital Territory are forced to contend with daily, with heaps of uncollected waste spilling onto the roadway. Here, along this busy axis, refuse meant to be contained within designated dump points have overflowed, narrowing the road and forcing motorists and pedestrians to compete for space. During peak hours, traffic slows to a crawl, with drivers making dangerous maneuvers to avoid the piles of waste. Residents say the situation has worsened in recent weeks, blaming irregular waste evacuation and poor management.
This has been like this for many weeks now, and it's causing a lot of havoc. A lot of accidents occur here, mostly in the evening period, due to that one way trying to bypass the waste bin and follow the one-way axis. Caused a lot of accidents here. For last week, when an accident occurred, the vehicle have to plunge into the lagoon there.
So it is better they just have a task force that will be guiding this particular place. Then once the waste is filled up, they should just come ahead and pick it up.
Well, we want the government to now either take it from the contractor that's handling it now, give it to a new contractor, so that we'll be having a free flow of traffic. And you can see the road is very good. The road itself is very good. But because of this dustbin now, this waste, we find life difficult.
Beyond traffic disruption, there are growing concerns about public health. The decomposing waste emits foul odors and attracts pests, posing risks to both residents, business owners, and road users.
Because probably you're not supposed to be keeping all this heavy on the road. Like now, when we are walking, this issue disturb us with the smell. We can't sit and chop or we can't drink anything comfortably in this place because of this dustbin that is here. I don't know what we are going to do. So please, help us to put on for this government so that we come and get this waste away from this place.
Many residents and road users are calling on those responsible to swiftly clear the refuse and implement sustainable waste management solutions to prevent a reoccurrence. As Abuja continues to grow, residents say addressing the waste crisis is no longer optional, but a necessity to ensuring safety, hygiene, and smooth traffic flow. In Abuja, for News Central, Aishat Salihu.
Well, Aisha is back from that dump site. She's here in the studio. Aisha, were you able to chop or drink something there?
No. I mean, it was such a stench. The whole place was smelly, apart from the fact that you can see the heap of waste there. It was just stenchy. Everyone around there couldn't even stand. The residents I spoke with, they couldn't even stand the odor emanating from the waste.
So, but is that an official dump site?
I would say it's not really an official dump site because the FCT has an official dump site. But for the residents that I spoke with, they did mention that that has always been, like, I would say, partially a designated area where they can dump their waste. But as the city continued to grow and, you know, people moved to those areas, they expected that the government would come and move that, you know, so that people would stop dumping refuse in that area. And another issue here is that apart from the fact that the government is yet to even move that dump site, another issue is the irresponsibility of the government and also the residents in the area. Because even you can still see people coming to stockpile more of the waste in that area. So they call them Babambola. You still see them coming to drop refuse on top of the overflowing refuse that is already on the roadside.
What, in your opinion, do you think if a task force is placed there, they would be above board to stop the Babambola from coming to drop their refuse there?
I'd say it's a bit dicey. As much as the residents are calling for task force, you know, government presence and all that, I would say that they have to also be responsible in deploying their responsibility in that area so that they don't go overboard. And also the people in that area, they also have to understand that once we have a task force here, we have to now be responsible. We have to now be disciplined.
All right. Thank you so much, Aisha. It's good to have you back here. And I know you don't have to wear a face mask here. Thank you so much. We'll take a break, and when we'll come back, we're going on to the African continent. What's going on in Somalia? Details in a moment. Somalia will deploy more than 10,000 security personnel in the capital, Mogadishu, ahead of next week's local elections, the first to break poll in nearly 60 years. In April, the country launched voter registration for the first time in decades, a step towards universal suffrage and an end to the complex clan-based indirect voting system in place since 1969. The December 25 polls, which the opposition has boycotted, accusing the federal government of unilateral election processes, will see more than 1,600 candidates contest 390 local seats in the southeastern Banadir region. Nearly 400,000 people are registered to vote in the elections. Electoral Commission Chairman Abdi Karim Hassan said all movement will be restricted on election day, with voters transported to polling station by bus. Amid security concerns, Rwanda has shut down thousands of evangelical churches for failing to comply with a 2018 law regulating places of worship. The law mandates health and safety standards, financial transparency, and theological training for preachers. President Paul Kagame has strongly criticized the rapid growth of evangelical churches, accusing some of exploiting worshippers, offering little contribution to national development. Authorities say more than 10,000 churches have been closed, forcing many Christians to travel long distances to pray. Analysts argue that the crackdown also reflects the government's efforts to limit rival sources of influence in the country. Southeast Asian foreign ministers have met to push Thailand and Cambodia toward restoring a truce after renewed fighting along their shared border. The meeting, convened under the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, reflects growing regional concern over escalating violence and its humanitarian impact. The talks follow weeks of clashes that have killed civilians and forced large-scale displacement in border communities. ASEAN Chair Malaysia urged both sides to de-escalate tensions and return to dialogue, stressing the bloc's commitments to peaceful conflict resolution. Officials from both countries attended the meeting, each accusing the other of breaching earlier ceasefire understandings. While no immediate breakthrough was announced, Asian leaders said sustained diplomatic engagement will continue in a bid to secure a lasting truce and prevent further instability in the region.
Everyone must make cessation of hostilities and peaceful resolution a top priority. Excellencies, the Chair is deeply saddened by the civilian casualties, and the prolonged conflicts affects livelihoods and contribute to the significant.
An Australian state government is pushing tougher gun control measures following a recent shooting that shocked the community. The proposed laws include stricter firearm licensing, expanded police powers, and a ban on so-called terror symbols, which authorities say are used to promote extremist violence. Leaders say the reforms are aimed at preventing future attacks and improving public safety. The legislation is expected to be debated in Parliament in the coming weeks.
Today we're introducing new laws, tough new laws, to protect the community, to crack down on hate and strengthen public safety. The legislation bans the public displays of terrorist symbols, outlaws violence, incitement to violence in New South Wales, and gives police stronger powers during public assemblies. It also delivers the toughest firearm reforms in the country. It does restrict access to high-risk weapons, strengthening licence, storage and oversight regimes in the state. We can't pretend that the world is the same as it was before that terrorist incident on Sunday. Things need to change in New South Wales. Give anything to go back a week, a month, 2 years to ensure that didn't happen.
Nigeria and the United States have signed a 5-year health cooperation agreement worth $5.1 billion to strengthen healthcare delivery nationwide. The Memorandum of Understanding commits about $2.1 billion from the U.S. and nearly $3 billion from Nigeria, the country's largest domestic co-investment under the America First Global Health Strategy. The deal targets HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, polio, and maternal and child health. Around $200 million would support Christian faith-based clinics and hospitals, many operating in underserved communities. Officials say the partnership will expand access to essential services, strengthen disease surveillance, and improve health systems resilience, though reactions to the focus on faith-based providers have been mixed. Eskom says South Africa's power system has stabilized ahead of higher electricity demand during the festive season, supported by gains from its generation recovery plan and intensified maintenance. The utility reported an energy availability factor of 66.12% in December, up from 57.69% a year earlier. Unplanned outages have declined by 1,264 megawatts year-on-year, while load shedding has been limited to 26 hours since the start of the financial year. Eskom also recorded lower diesel costs and 217 days without supply interruptions. The utility plans to add 4,670 megawatts before December the 22nd to meet peak demand and sustain grid reliability. And the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. John Asiama, says the central bank is targeting a reduction in the banking sector's non-performing loan ratio to 10% by the end of 2026 from 19.5% as of October 2025. Speaking at the Governor's Day annual bankers dinner, Asiama says improved macroeconomic conditions and easing interest rates should support prudent loan restructuring without weakening standards. He urged banks to channel renewed confidence into supporting Ghana's export drive, including agro-processing and AFCFTA's related trade. the governor stressed that stronger export financing would expand foreign exchange inflows and strengthen bank balance sheets and improve overall financial system resilience. And that's all on the 6th edition. But just before we go, a recap of the major stories. We told you that the federal government has handed over the remaining 130 abducted school children and teachers to the Niger State Government. And the FCCPC has warned intercity transport operators against arbitrary transport fare hikes. We also told you that Rwanda has shut down thousands of evangelical churches over non-compliance. Remember that you can send us your eyewitness report. Send it to the WhatsApp number showing on your screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. I'm Neota Igbe.